Sitting in my favorite chair, the familiar fabric comforting against my skin, my mind drifts back to the countless moments that shaped my bond with Tom, my beloved son. Days spent juggling work at the diner and late-night shifts at the supermarket filled my calendar, but each grin from Tom made it all worthwhile. I can still smell the aroma of freshly baked bread wafting through our home, my secret recipe, one I reserved solely for him. It held our family traditions together, wrapping around us like a warm hug on chilly nights. Tom's laughter echoed throughout our home, a sound that chased away the weariness of my long days. I can picture those fall afternoons, cheering him on from the sidelines of soccer games. His infectious energy uplifted me, and I felt my heart swell with pride each time he scored a goal, sunlight catching his hair like a golden halo. Those times felt sacred, moments that reminded me of joy amid the struggles. I believed I was building a strong foundation for him, pouring my heart into late-night homework sessions and wiping away his tears during heartbreaks. I was the steady supporter, diligently nurturing his spirit while imparting lessons on resilience and kindness. Yet, beneath this tapestry of happiness, I sensed a subtle shift with Claire's arrival. When Tom introduced her to our family, I was enveloped by an uneasiness. Her charm dazzled everyone around her, but I felt the tight grip of something darker. At our first holiday dinner together, I prepared my famous roast, the centerpiece of every gathering, and Claire leaned over with a smirk. I wouldn't have thought of serving that. It's so traditional, isn't it? Her words hung in the air, laden with disdain, while laughter erupted around the table. I glanced at Tom, searching for solace in his eyes, only to see his gaze diverted, shrouded under a blanket of indifference. The tightness in my throat made it impossible to enjoy the festivities. With subsequent gatherings, Claire's authority over our family dynamics became evident. She dictated movie choices, swapping cherished films for ones that suited her preferences without considering mine. Each hidden barb felt like a feather piercing my heart, leaving me gasping for affection from my son. Although I poured love into homemade gifts and thoughtful gestures, Claire greeted them with indifference. Once treasures had now turned into relics, their significance diminished in her presence. I often gazed out the window, remembering the laughter that warmed our home, now reduced to shadows of fading memories. The isolation deepened, chipping away at the bond I had carefully built over the years. Was I still the mother he once admired, or had I transformed into a mere ghost of his past? Navigating this new family dynamic was daunting. Still, I silently promised myself I would endure, adapting to reclaim the warmth that had begun to dissipate. Love, I hoped, could be rekindled. The heart of our family could beat strong once more, intertwining the past with a future I fought to salvage. The sun streamed through my kitchen window, casting golden rays over the countertops as I prepared for the annual family barbecue. The scent of marinating chicken wafted through the air, mixed with the sweet notes of summer. I stood there flipping burgers, my heart filled with anticipation at the thought of gathering my loved ones around the table once more. This was my time to shine, to showcase the family traditions I held dear. Tom and Claire arrived, laughter preceding them like fanfare. I watched as Claire sauntered in, a burst of energy that seemed to consume the room. Her vibrant personality and laughter enveloped everyone, but there was a veil of discomfort woven tightly around my heart. As they entered, I couldn't help but notice the subtle shift in the atmosphere, as though a damper was placed over our shared moments. "Looks like Grandma's cooking up another feast," Claire remarked, her tone light, yet I felt a flicker of something sharper beneath the surface, an edge that I couldn't quite define. "Hope you've updated your sources, Helen. We don't want to turn this into a relic of the past. The laughter that followed felt hollow, ricocheting around the room, leaving me to digest her jab alone. I plastered a tight smile on my face, feeling Tom's gaze shift away from my hands as they trembled slightly. I glanced to him, desperately searching for support, but he peeked around the room, engaging in superficial conversations with others. As the day progressed, I felt the undertones of Claire's dismissive remarks multiply, each one a reminder of my fading relevance. When she suggested altering the usual picnic arrangements, taking them to some trendy place instead of our backyard, I felt my heart constrict. Let's try something fresh and new. I mean, what's the point of doing the same old thing? Her excited chatter filled the space, leaving little room for my feelings. Tom simply nodded, oblivious to the turmoil brewing beneath. With each passing event, Claire's comments slipped into our gatherings with stealthy ease. I remember another evening spent at our family game night. We were all crowded around the table with cards in hand, the familiar sound of laughter mingling with playful banter. When it was my turn, I excitedly offered a classic game I adored, one that had become a rite of passage for Tom growing up. I think we should stick to something simpler, don't you think? Claire interjected, flipping her hair casually. Maybe one of those new escape room games would be more interesting. A few family members laughed in agreement, but those laughs felt like stones in my heart, sinking deeper with each passing second. What do you say, Mom? Want me to set up something new? Tom asked, his voice brightening, obliviously taking Claire's cue. Every time he uttered my title, Mom, it crumbled ever so slightly, stripping away the confidence I had held on to. I could feel the warmth in my chest evaporating with every nod of acquiescence. The sweets I had prepared lost their taste, and the laughter around me transformed from a warm embrace to a wrenching reminder of my burr beneath the family blanket. What struck me most, however, was the collateral silence that surrounded Tom whenever Claire's jabs hit home. While she basked in the attention, he stood by, a spectator rather than the ally I had hoped he would be. With each change she proposed, I watched my world readjust around her whims, feeling my identity slowly slip away like grains of sand through clenched fingers. I sought solace in my home, turning inward during the quiet moments. I dug through old albums, the dust stirring as I flipped through pages stained with memories. I recalled those moments when Tom would cling to me, desperate for hugs and affection. Yet they felt like fading echoes now. Each photograph served as a poignant reminder of what was slipping away. Faced with Claire's undeniable influence, I realized that I had let my voice become a mere whisper. The bittersweet taste of nostalgia mixed with frustration clawed at my throat. One afternoon, I called my sister Betty, confiding in her the tumult within my heart. As I recounted my struggles, I could sense her concern. You've been so devoted to them, Helen. You've run yourself dry trying to keep the family spirit alive. Don't let Claire get away with it. Speak up before it's too late. Her words lingered in the air, wrapping around me like a warm blanket as I hung up. Perhaps Betty was right. Perhaps it was time for me to evaluate the boundaries of my contributions and reassert that I still mattered in this shifting landscape of love and loyalty. Reigniting my passions took root as I mused during peaceful afternoons, making goals that extended beyond the elaborate meals I had once orchestrated. I began planning small surprises for Tom and the family, hoping to weave the favorite traditions I had once brought into our lives. I yearned for the closeness I once felt with my son, and I thought that perhaps if I demonstrated an unwavering commitment to our history, I could battle Claire's creeping influence, restoring my family's essence. Yet, uncertainty loomed like an uninvited shadow, and that feeling of belonging, so delicate, drifted further from my grasp. Every time I met Claire's veiled barbs with open arms, I felt more like a relic than a beloved matriarch. Yet, I held steadfast, knowing with each passing day that my heart was still capable of real love, even amidst the trials of this new reality, a new chapter awaiting me in the family saga I had once thought unbreakable. The spring air felt invigorating as I arranged a bouquet of daisies on the kitchen table, setting the stage for a family lunch that could rekindle connections. I wanted to create an inviting atmosphere, a space for laughter and shared stories that would remind us of our past, before Claire's influence had started to overshadow our gatherings. As I mixed a fresh batch of pasta, I felt a warm rush of determination. This was my chance to reclaim my dignity, to assert my presence as Tom's mother amidst the shifts of family dynamics. I could blend the familiar with a touch of novelty, inviting Claire to join without letting her dominate. A few days later, I typed a group message to Tom and Claire, inviting them for lunch. Though I hesitated before hitting send, the thought of keeping quiet felt heavier than the fear of rejection. "Let's gather for a Sunday lunch at my place," I wrote, heart racing, hoping they'd see it as an opportunity to reconnect with our family heritage. The days leading up to that Sunday were filled with preparations. I poured my heart into every detail. The aroma of garlic and basil wafted through the air as I cooked, filling my home with warmth. I set the table lovingly, decorating with candles casting a gentle glow, crafting an environment filled with tradition and love. When they arrived, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. "Wow, Mom, it smells incredible!" Tom exclaimed, wrapping me in a brief hug. That familiarity bolstered my resolve, but I still felt the simmering tension as Claire entered, her presence commanding. "Is this Italian again?" she quipped, her tone playful but laced with her usual sarcasm. The remark stung, and I sensed Tom stiffen beside me. Nevertheless, I pressed on, determined to showcase my culinary efforts. I served the steaming pasta, explaining how I had revamped the recipe while keeping our family essence intact. "This twist might bring a fresh perspective to our traditions," I said, striving to invite Claire into a collaboration instead of opposition. Although she remained charming and engaged, the underlying tension was palpable. I watched as she effortlessly wove stories with Tom, indulging him in conversations that seemed to drown out my contributions. I fought the longing to command attention, polishing my resolve to keep the focus on family, on us. My own voice felt stifled in the brilliance of her dazzling charm. As we shared stories, I felt the shift in dynamics. I reframed our cherished moments, gently reinforcing my role in Tom's upbringing, all while navigating the minefield of Claire's competitive remarks. I decided to channel my memories and passion into small jokes and anecdotes that underscored our bonds. Each word a stake in the ground I was determined to defend. Just as I felt the warmth beginning to grow, Claire once again shifted the focus, suggesting we step outside for a walk, a typical ploy to break the intimacy I was trying to cultivate. My heart sank, but Tom, eager to partake, jumped at the idea. As they moved toward the door, a sudden rush of determination surged within me. I called out, "Why don't we mix things up, Claire? Let's do a cooking challenge instead and see who's got the best recipe." A challenge hung in the air, lingering with the weight of my fervor. Tom looked intrigued, and for a fleeting moment, I felt the balance shift back toward me. Claire arched an eyebrow but laughed lightly, dismissing the challenge. "Oh, Helen, everyone knows pasta is your domain. I wouldn't want to embarrass you." That blatant jab stung, but I chose to rise above. "Maybe it could be a fun way to see what we each bring to the table," I countered, my voice steady. I think traditions are worth celebrating, but we can also explore the new. My words hung in the air. An olive branch extended toward her. Tom smiled, a glimmer of understanding flickering in his eyes. He chimed in, "Sure, Mom, we should totally do that." In that moment, I felt a small victory. The afternoon slipped into a series of shared banter, a tangle of competition tempered by laughter. Though Claire still kept trying to steer the attention back to her stories, I held tight to my resolve, blending my significance with the past while inviting her to dance in the circle of our familial tradition. Drawing on that nostalgia came in waves, and as I served dessert, an old recipe that held a treasure trove of memories, I braced myself for her reaction. "This is nice, Mom," Tom nodded, and I felt my heart light as he took a large bite. "Sure, Helen. It's, interesting," Claire remarked distastefully as she pushed her fork into the cake. The sting of her words cut deep, but I refused to let it show. Instead, I focused on the warmth radiating in Tom's smile. As the afternoon faded into dusk, I knew this was merely a beginning. I had nudged the dynamic slightly, asserting myself with dignity while unraveling the ability to intertwine our histories. But the journey was far from over. I could see that I'd need to blend patience with fierce love as the weeks wore on, deliberately navigating the dense thicket of Claire's influence, protecting my place in the family without severing ties. The notion of reclaiming my dignity had taken root, and I entered a new chapter with renewed determination, ready to defend my family's spirit and find strength within us, growing stronger as we bridged the gap. As the days passed after that bittersweet lunch, I found my resolve both bolstered and challenged. I established a new rhythm in my routine, weaving in thoughts of family and tradition like threads into a tapestry. But beneath that surface serenity, I felt the unsettling presence of Claire settling deeper within our family dynamic. I was determined not to let her influence go unchecked. It was time to dive into a methodical investigation to uncover the subtle but potent fabric of manipulation she spun around Tom and me. I began by observing the interactions within our gatherings closely, studying her patterns and nuances as if they were the delicate brushes of an artist at work. At every family event, I positioned myself strategically, finding opportunities to engage Tom one-on-one while remaining mindful of Claire's positioning like a chess player maneuvering for advantage. Our next family event was a Friday night dinner at Tom's new apartment. As I arrived, I carried a homemade pie, my smile brightening the air despite what loomed. The scent of cinnamon filled my lungs, recalling all those cozy evenings in our kitchen, wrapped in warmth and laughter. "Mom, that smells fantastic," Tom exclaimed, grabbing a slice right away. I hoped that my efforts didn't just fill his stomach, but offered a sense of connection he seemed to need. I watched Claire eyeing the pie with a mix of curiosity and skepticism, the corner of her mouth twitching as she refrained from expressing any admiration. "Let's see if it's as good as it looks," she said lightly, taking a small slice and setting it down with what felt like a dismissive air. The way she subtly critiqued my efforts, it poured salt on my efforts. Yet I stood firm, maintaining an unwavering smile, resolutely savoring the moment that filled my heart like the aroma of baked apples. As the evening progressed, laughter cascaded around the table, and Tom engaged Claire in stories about their recent trips. I noticed how Claire tactically redirected the conversation to highlight her contributions in the relationship, ensuring that Tom's attention remained fixated on her, like a moth drawn to a flame. It was disheartening yet illuminating, uncovering how effective her tactics were at keeping the spotlight on herself. Each joke that elicited laughter felt like a stab at my confidence, but instead of retreating, I responded with gentle humor. Maybe next time we should plan a reminder for trivia night. I always win, I quipped, a playful smile masking any distress. But the truth was, I wanted Tom to remember the love and laughter that surrounded our family. In the following weeks, I began documenting my observations privately. I kept a small journal, noting each subtle jab, each misstep that pushed me to the fringes, a roadmap of Claire's influence. I craved clarity, a deeper understanding of how she wielded her power over Tom, and, more importantly, how it affected our bond. Every birthday and family celebration was a chance to collect more evidence. I watched Claire's interactions, how she deflected compliments that could have been shared with me, replacing them with stories that showcased her background and experience. Every interaction left me a little more unsettled, yet more resolute. One afternoon, while tidying up the kitchen, I stumbled upon an old family video tucked away at the back of my cabinet. Watching it, I was struck by how strong our bonds had been, a bright testament to the love that had fostered our family identity. I remembered the time we all gathered for holidays, Tom's laughter ringing louder than the chatter of adults, small moments coated in warmth and love. I couldn't help but contrast that warmth with the coldness I felt from Claire. The evidence within the video was a stark reminder of family inclusiveness, far removed from the exclusionary atmosphere Claire had created. My journal entries expanded in length, a meticulous account capturing every nuance. Tom's casual dismissals of my contributions weighed heavily on my heart. "Oh, Mom, that won't work. Claire does it different. You know you can't win against her culinary magic." His words echoed in my mind, words that cut deeper than a kitchen knife. But through my reflection and investigation, realization struck that this wasn't a competition at all. It was a web Claire was skillfully weaving, and I was tangled right in the center. She sought to position herself not just as his partner, but as the sole influencer of our family narrative, and that realization ignited a fire within me. One evening, while watching TV together, I decided to test the waters. "Tom, I've been writing down not only old recipes, but creating some in new ways too. I think a family cook-off could spice things up. Don't you think that would be fun?" Tom looked momentarily intrigued, but then shrugged with confusion etched on his face. "Yeah, but Claire knows how to make those new dishes so much better, right?" His easy acceptance of Claire's dominance stung, but I pressed on, piercing through the shadows with determination. "We could selectively weave in new ideas. There's no harm in a little creativity, right?" Yet, every time I threw a challenge toward Claire, I noticed her defenses raised, her dismissive commentary more biting each time, dripping with contempt while I held my ground. Now, backed with evidence of behavior I could no longer ignore, I realized that my investigation had clarified my focus. I couldn't fight her alone. It would take all of us rallying around the traditions I cherished to remain a vital force of our family. One afternoon, I gathered my resolve and called Betty again. As we spoke, I confided in her about my findings, the need to speak with Tom directly about my concerns. She encouraged me to trust my instincts and be transparent about how I felt, a difficult task, but one that felt necessary. As our conversation settled, a plan began to unfurl within me. I would confront Tom together with evidence, my collected observations and reflections to reclaim our family narrative. Maybe if I showed him how his relationship with Claire was reshaping not just our interactions, but the very foundation of our history, he might understand the importance of balance, the beauty in blending the old with the new. As I sat there watching old family videos play once again, I whispered to myself, they can mute me at the table, never in my heart. My resolve was transforming into action, a plan to bridge the widening gap between us, one where clarity and communication could steer us back to the love that had bound us for years. Buckling up, I planned how I would approach Tom, ready to gently guide him toward the heart of who we were before Claire permanently altered the narrative. As days turned into weeks, I focused on formulating my plan. Each breakfast preparing Tom's favorite oatmeal became an exercise in mindfulness, a meditation on how to share my heart with him. I would create a moment where we could talk openly and honestly about how Claire's relationship had subtly shifted our family dynamics. I chose a quiet Friday evening for our conversation, knowing it would provide a peaceful backdrop. I lit candles around the living room, their flickering flames casting warm shadows as I prepared a simple home-cooked dinner. The air, tinged with the inviting scent of roasted chicken mingling with rosemary, hung enticingly in the air. The table was set, a careful blend of comfort and nostalgia, incorporating all the elements that had once filled our family gatherings with joy. When Tom arrived, I kept my posture relaxed, but inside, everything felt taut, like a stretched string ready to snap. "Hey, Mom! Dinner smells incredible," he called, flashing that beautiful smile of his. His enthusiasm warmed my heart, but I knew I needed to stick to our plan. As we sat together eating, I initiated the conversation gently. "Tom, I've been reflecting on family a lot lately," I started, my voice careful, tracing the edges of the topic I'd been longing to discuss. "You know how important it is to me, right?" He nodded slowly, a hint of curiosity flickering in his eyes. I was navigating a delicate stream, the current pulling me toward places I hadn't dared to tread. "I've noticed that things have changed since Claire came into the picture," I continued, gauging his reaction. "I appreciate how she's brought some new life into our family, but I can't help but feel, well, overshadowed at times." His brow furrowed, confusion etched on his face. "What do you mean?" "Claire's great, Mom. She's got some amazing ideas." The defensiveness in his tone stung, but I pressed on, determined to articulate my feelings clearly. "I know that, Tom. I really do," I replied, keeping my tone soft and steady. "But sometimes it feels like I'm not valued in those spaces we shared, you know? It's as if our traditions are slipping away under her influence. The family experiences that we built together, the meals, the laughter, those are still important to me." For a moment, silence enveloped us like a heavy cloak. I could see him processing, the weight of my words settling in. I took this as a cue to dive deeper into my reflections. "I know I haven't spoken up before, and maybe I've let things go too far," I added, holding my breath, praying he would see the sincerity behind my intentions. "I think a lot of it is just adjusting, Mom. Claire is trying to fit in with us," he said slowly, though the perplexity remained in his eyes. "It's a transition. You know that, right?" "Yes, I understand that," I assured him, praying he would realize the depth of my concern. "But have you noticed how she seems to steer conversations or dismiss my ideas? I feel erased sometimes." The vulnerability in my voice held the air captive. Tom shifted in his seat, looking away briefly. I could see the wheels turning in his mind. "I guess I haven't really noticed it that much. It's just how she is. She's always been kind of assertive." My heart sank. A familiar sense of defeat washed over me. I had prided myself in the small, unyielding moments of prepared meals, of holidays celebrated, but here I was, fighting for a voice that felt like it was fading under the weight of Tom's loyalties. Then I recalled what Betty had said about being transparent. "Tom, this isn't just about me feeling uncomfortable. It's about how Claire's behaviors could alter our family dynamics in the long run. I want you to keep your joy and warmth, but to also include and celebrate our family's history. He looked at me then, his expression softening. You're really concerned about this, aren't you? More than you know. When I'm dismissed or overlooked in our gatherings, it feels like we're losing part of who we are. The intensity of my emotions began to seep through with every word spoken. I want you to know that I cherish our family and all those moments we spent together. In that moment of vulnerability, I pulled out my journal, laying it gently on the table. I've been capturing my thoughts about interactions that have worried me, I said, flipping the pages to show him the entries I had meticulously noted, evidence of the feelings simmering beneath the surface. He scanned a few entries, furrows returning to his brow as he read. I didn't realize all of this was happening, Mom. His voice was quiet, almost filled with regret. If I ever dismissed your contributions, I didn't mean to. You didn't know, and that's okay, I reassured him. It's difficult for me to stand up and voice my emotions sometimes, especially when I fear coming off as petty. But I need to reclaim my part in this family. It's crucial. As he absorbed this, I watched as layers of understanding began to peel back, revealing a deeper recognition of the situation. I didn't want to hurt you, Mom. I just thought you were being polite, letting her take the lead. Politeness can often turn into silence, I replied softly, my heart racing. But I'm hoping we can work together to include both traditions and new ideas. Claire is important, yes, but I want to remain an integral part of your life too. I hear you, he said finally, looking directly at me. I'll talk to Claire. It's not fair to you. We need to strike a balance. With that simple declaration, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I sensed the shift, our previous tensions beginning to dissolve into the possibility of understanding. Tom reached over, squeezing my hand, a reassuring gesture that made my heart swell. Thanks for being open, Mom. It's important for me to hear this. I never realized. In that moment, my mantra floated back into my mind, warming my spirit. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. I felt the love rushing back in as our connection began to strengthen and deepen, bridging that widening gap I had felt over the last few months. After dinner, I could sense a comfortable air enfolding us, a promise for renewal. For once it felt less about Claire and more about the strength of the bond we shared, one that had withstood the test of time. The resolve to reclaim my space within the family had ignited a new path, one that glimmered with hope, a possibility of unity without erasing any parts. And as we cleaned up together, side by side, I dared to believe that the conversations ahead would open avenues for family experiences that honored us all. The dance of blending the old with the new was underway, and I felt invigorated, ready to promote growth while holding firmly to the family legacy I had cherished so dearly. With a renewed sense of purpose igniting my spirit, I set my sights on the upcoming cook-off, not just an event but our family's chance to reconnect and share our history. I realized this was my moment to intertwine tradition with innovation, crafting an evening where Claire could contribute without overshadowing the roots that held us together. I called Tom that evening, my voice buoyant with excitement. How does Family Favorites Night sound? We can schedule it for the Saturday after next, I proposed, picturing laughter and stories intertwining with the aromas of the kitchen. Mom, that's a fantastic idea. His enthusiasm blossomed over the phone, wrapping around my heart like a warm embrace. I can't wait to see what everyone brings. With the date set, I launched into preparations, pouring my love into every detail. I scoured through my collection of family recipes, those beloved dishes that had filled our home with warmth while crafting playful twists that reflected the new. I envisioned vibrant, colorful dishes that would tell stories just as rich as those recipes, the kind of tales that could spark laughter and nostalgia among relatives. The invitations I created were personal and heartfelt, adorned with cherished family photos from past gatherings, showcasing the essence of our togetherness. Bring your favorite dish and share your story, I urged, imagining each family member lighting up at the chance to contribute to our narrative. With every invitation sent, I felt a swell of excitement build, an undercurrent of hope that coursed through my veins. As the days flew by, the ripple of anticipation grew, fueled by the responses pouring in. Family members signed up with dishes ranging from Grandma's classic lasagna to Claire's exciting new recipes, each confirmation lighting a spark in my heart. I imagined the blending of flavors, how our evening could transform into a celebration of culinary heritage, an intertwining of threads from our shared fabric. The night of the cook-off finally arrived. My home buzzed with energy as I transformed the kitchen into a vibrant centerpiece. Soft music played in the background, blending with the aromas of garlic and herbs wafting through the air, mixing with the cheerfulness of anticipation. The table was laid out with care, adorned with beautiful linens, flickering candles casting warm glows that accentuated the inviting atmosphere. As the doorbell chimed, excitement surged within me. I peered through the peephole, catching a glimpse of Tom greeting Claire with a radiant smile. My heart danced, hoping they would embrace the community we were building. As they entered, I prepared my mind to embrace this moment, letting go of any apprehension. "Wow, this looks incredible," Tom remarked, his eyes sparkling with admiration. Relief washed over me at his response. The warmth of his heartfelt compliment reverberated through my chest. I felt the tension that had long gripped our family start to dissipate. As guests trickled in, I welcomed each family member with open arms. Laughter echoed around the room, intertwining with the clinking of silverware and sizzling sounds from the kitchen. I could feel the electricity of shared anticipation in the air, and for a moment, worries ebbed away, replaced by the joyous energy of connection. Once everyone had arrived, I called for everyone to gather around. I welcomed everyone, encouraging them to share the stories behind their dishes. Quickly, the room transformed into a lively scene. Each tale that emerged spun threads of nostalgia. The love and laughter woven into our past embraced us like a cozy blanket. As stories flowed, I couldn't help but smile. However, I felt Claire lurking at the periphery. The moment she eyed the food station, I sensed a flicker of skepticism in her demeanor. "Isn't this a little chaotic?" she said, partially scanning the scattered plates and bowls with an arched eyebrow. "Chaos can lead to creativity," I replied with a smile. "It's all part of the fun. We're celebrating who we are, embracing both our traditions and new ideas." My heart raced as she held my gaze, weighing her response. A moment passed, charged with unspoken words, before she nodded, albeit hesitantly. As the evening continued and dishes were unveiled, the familial warmth started to penetrate her guarded facade. When it came time for Claire to present her dish, I watched with bated breath. "I made this colorful quinoa salad with a twist," she proclaimed with a hint of pride. The room fell silent as everyone turned toward her, and I held my breath, hoping this moment would allow her to step into the circle rather than stand apart from it. "Looks delicious," someone chimed, and to my relief, everyone's kindness enveloped her. They reached out and began sampling, welcoming her creation into the fold of our gathering. The laughter rippled and Claire seemed to soften, a spark of surprise illuminating her face. In a surprising show of vulnerability, she engaged with relatives I hadn't seen her do before, sharing the inspirations behind her dish. I could see the icy barrier thawing as connections began forming. Perhaps she too could become part of our legacy while still maintaining her individuality. As the night drew to a close, I turned to Tom, the joy swelling in my heart. "We did it, didn't we?" My voice trembled with excitement and relief. "Absolutely, Mom. Everyone loved it," he exclaimed, his enthusiasm contagious. "It was beautiful how we all came together." I gazed around the room, soaking in the atmosphere. Plates scattered, laughter threading through the evening. My mantra echoed in my mind. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." I felt strengthened, knowing that we'd taken a significant step forward. As the last guest departed, their spirits high with the lingering warmth, I sensed something profound had shifted within our family. Here we were, blending histories and stories, uniting a tapestry that celebrated both the past and the future. In that moment of hope and joy, I realized we had forged a path toward unity, a direction where each voice held its rightful place at the table. Together, we stepped into a new chapter, intertwined in our family story, where every dish, every laugh, and every story contributed to the beautiful legacy we were building. In the days following the cook-off, a lightness lingered over our evenings, infusing our family interactions with newfound warmth. Sunday brunch turned into vibrant gatherings where laughter floated in the air, and Tom and Claire began inviting me into their discussions more often. It felt like we were stitching together a quilt of connection, each patch a reminder of how far we had come. But beneath the joy, a thread of apprehension tugged at my heart. Was this unity genuine or merely a fleeting illusion? I shook off the doubt, embracing my trusty mantra. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." There was strength in these words, a quiet assurance that I wouldn't lose my identity again. One evening, as the comforting scent of beef stew simmered on the stove, the doorbell rang. A quick glance through the window revealed Claire standing there, a hint of uncertainty clouding her features. My heart raced with excitement and hope. "Hi, I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, her usual confidence somewhat muted. "Not at all. Come in." I beckoned, eager to welcome her. She stepped inside, clutching a small basket of freshly baked bread. The act felt so domestic, so right. "I thought I could share this with you and Tom. You know, enjoy another family meal together," she said, a hint of vulnerability in her tone that caught me off guard. "That sounds wonderful. Let me set the table," I replied, my heart swelling with optimism. As I prepared the table, Tom arrived home, his infectious energy filling the space. The three of us settled around the kitchen table, laughter soon circling like a bright melody. Each bite of stew and slice of bread felt saturated with shared joy, weaving us closer together. "Mom, this is amazing," Tom said, savoring the flavors. My chest swelled with pride. I stole glances at Claire, noting how her initial reservations melted away. She laughed, chiming in with stories from her past, her voice vibrant with newfound enthusiasm. Just then, the door swung open and my sister Betty burst in with her usual flair. "Did someone say feast? Count me in," she exclaimed, joining us with infectious cheer. The atmosphere flourished as Betty settled in, adding her unique spark to our gathering. As laughter cascaded around the table, I felt moments of connection blossom like flowers in early spring. Yet a small worry nagged at me, a reminder of how easily family dynamics could shift. Just as I was about to voice my unease, Claire caught my gaze. "I've been thinking a lot since we got together last time," she said, her tone earnest. "I appreciate how you've opened your space for me in this family. I know I haven't always made it easy." Surprise washed over me, but I met her gaze with sincerity. "Thank you, Claire. Your willingness to share means everything." The air between us shifted. the tentative bond solidifying into something deeper. We were building trust, weaving a narrative that celebrated our differences as much as our commonalities. Tom leaned closer. What if we planned something else? Maybe a picnic next weekend? Just us and whoever wants to join, he suggested, his excitement palpable. Great idea, everyone chimed, hearts buoyant with enthusiasm. The possibilities hung heavy in the air like the scent of blooming flowers, a future filled with shared experiences unfolding before us. As I watched the conversations flow and the excitement build, my mantra echoed once more. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. I felt a sense of peace wash over me, confirming that I was not only reclaiming my place, but also fostering a legacy where every family member's voice could echo through our lives. In that moment, it became clear. We were more than just a family. We were a constellation of stories, each of us shining in our own right, fiercely intertwined, ready to celebrate a future together. The laughter, the warmth, and the bonds we were creating signaled that our transformation was not only real, but beautifully profound.